And welcome to Daily Space Weather, folks. I'm your host, Dan, aka smAsho, and we're doing a live YouTube Q&A, any chat, daily space weather type video today instead of the regular recorded daily space weather. And we're starting things out looking at the sun, which, by the way, is responsible for a lot of what's going on in your life, whether you're aware or not. And we've got a slightly different format today, so let me just give you some idea of what's happening. We do have our live chat available, so if you've got any questions, comments, etc., make sure you leave them in the live chat. And just bear with me one moment, folks. And there you can see the live chat on the screen. We'll shrink that down a little bit, and we'll leave that there. Now, we do see a large coronal hole at the North Pole region and some diffuse coronal holes down here south of the equator. That was a pretty bad line. Some coronal holes, and we appear to be just getting hit by a coronal hole wind stream right now. We'll show you that in a minute. Also, there's a coronal mass ejection looking like it's currently building. And there we go, everything is looking good. So you see this coronal mass ejection building out here. This is probably going to release, as that is quite a bit of plasma out there in the outer corona. And so we may make another video later today. We may make 2 videos later today, depending on various other factors, as it should be a pretty busy day today. Anyway, this view is from stereo A, and from this perspective, the Earth is out in this direction, right near the equatorial region. Next, we're going to look at HelioViewer, look at the fields. And you see a little bit of magnetic organization down there, a little bit to the west of the prime solar meridian. Here's a 304 angstroms view. And if I had to guess, and I suppose I do, that plasma is located in this area right here. Again, and what we're talking about is from the perspective of stereo A. Now it looks like it's north of the equator, so it could be this dark area up here. That would be the best guess. Anyway, here's a close-up of the active region that's moving into the setting mode. And you can see some filamentary behavior up here also. And a few coronal holes visible there in the 171 angstroms are quite well defined. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is still at 68. And there's the zoomed out view of the 10.7 centimeter radial flux, kind of in the middle of this bar right here. And by the way, this black line with these dots, these are monthly smoothed values. Monthly values. The blue line is the smoothed monthly values. And this is part of the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard, by the way. Here's the Gong 2 data, showing the top view ecliptic plane field plot to show us some quite striated plasma out here. And some of that is in the Earth-facing mode right now. Again, we're expecting to see a coronal mass ejection today. And we'll keep an eye on that for you. Produce another video, most likely. So as I stated yesterday, we are in the South Pole-oriented current sheet shown there in red. And this data is about 2 hours and 14 minutes old. Keep in mind the magnetic environment can suddenly change. Sunspots can form, coronal mass ejections can happen with no warning. KP index is currently at 1, having been at 0 about 9 hours ago. And we don't see any big striations in the X-ray flux nor the proton flux. There are those 2 data sets for the past 3 days. And next we're going to look at the real-time solar wind. And we see the phi angle shifting quite a bit and the BT/BZ at the same time. This is often a signal that we see when a coronal mass ejection releases. I'm not very surprised there. And since it's north of the equator, that's why we're seeing an increase in the negative BZ. So we're getting more of a signal from the South Pole solar polar field right now. And we're seeing an increase in field strength down there also. And that has to do with that plasma releasing and providing a barrier between the north solar polar field and Earth where this is measured, which is, by the way, at the F layer. The ionosphere is where the ACE Discover craft lives. So yeah, we see the phi angle shifting around at the same time in the past 9 hours here. And we see a coronal hole wind streaming arriving also as this is gently rising up while the solar wind speed is remaining the same. So current solar wind density around 9 protons per cubic centimeter, solar wind speed 342. And this is going to eventually level off, and this is going to come up at the same time. So we're going to see an increase in solar wind speed and an increase and a decrease in solar wind density at the same time. The surefire signature of a coronal hole wind stream. Next we'll look at the geospace magnetosphere as I vanish. There's the magnetosphere, and you'll see the pressure rising here at the end as that solar wind increases. This is 4 hours of data courtesy University of Michigan. And after this plays through, we'll bring up the chat to say good morning to all of our viewers. Again, please leave a comment. Shout out to Nay Boget. Peace! Here is the ground geospace magnetic perturbation map. And we should see the perturbations rise a little bit as solar protonic induction starts to cause some magnetism. And since that's refreshed, let's let that play through. Again, the format is slightly different today, folks. We won't be attending a live premiere. There won't be a live premiere because this is live. And to paraphrase Bill O'Reilly, we'll do it live then, okay? We'll do it effing live. I'll write it, okay? We'll do it live. And welcome to the Smashlight section where we'll do it live, okay? We'll do it live. I'll write it. I write it every day. Anyway, have you been to smashomash.com/forum? We've seen a crazy number of hits in the past few days. I guess people are locked down in their homes wearing masks, not understanding what to do. As we've gotten like 3,000 hits in just a few days here. Nearly at 1,300 users. And shout out to VW Richie 23, our latest user. We've got various subjects there. Forums on cosmology, earth and geophysics, general science. Thanks everybody for posting things there. And we've designed it to run itself. So please go over there and have a look if you haven't. One of the sections is in the Free-for-All forum, movie recommendations. And we've added another that we watched yesterday, very relevant to the current times. Here's my quote. Diani and Divine Meet the Apocalypse. Fantastic. From 2016, totally relevant, quite realistic in many ways. Lighthearted, self-deprecating, consistently funny, and again, quite relevant. So check it out. It depicts the experience of these two terrible stand-up comics who are good stand-up comics in real life, I assume. I'm not super familiar with them, but the movie is hilarious. It's indie, and it is free on Amazon Prime. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch this for free right now. Again, from 2016. So it was not forecasting any sort of global pandemics or anything like that. And who was? And just bear with me for one moment while I check and see what's going on during Fisher-Price, my first pandemic. And let's bring up the chat here. And again, if you are viewing live, leave us a comment. And if you're not viewing live, leave us a comment anyway. Were you aware that dogs may use the Earth's magnetic field to take shortcuts? Well, it turns out dogs seem to, before they try to reorient themselves, they run north and south in about a 20 meter long line, possibly to orient themselves to the Earth's geomagnetic fields. So another piece of interesting information here about animals using magnetic fields. Now, we've covered many times before on the daily space weather videos about how fish and birds are able to actually see magnetic fields, as in with their eyes, which is maybe news for some folks. Now, it's been considered for years that things like migratory birds have some sort of a mechanism in their brain, and indeed they do. It's called their eyes. It's part of their occipital lobe, and part of the reason why their spatial skills are so good is because of the size of their occipital lobe. Birds and fish able to see magnetic fields. Well, it turns out we're not exactly sure how dogs do this, but they all seemed to orient themselves after running back and forth on an approximately 20 meter long north-south axis. So in the middle of a scouting run, they would stop and run about 20 meters along north and south before it would then navigate back to its location. A possibility that geomagnetic fields are determining this, and this one is in Science. So congratulations on surviving a global pandemic, by the way. Did you want a t-shirt that depicts this? Now, of course, this is kind of a neutral shirt, as people are going to be a little confused about what that's all about. And of course, we've changed the branding so that it says "smAsho price, my first pandemic," as we're always messing with the brand. That's the way you want things really set up. So let me just bear with me one moment, folks. And there's what the design will actually look like. "smAsho price, my first pandemic." And we should have the prototype shirt here in about a week, assuming there are no further delays. So, hey, thanks for reviewing Planet Earth. And we're not done yet here. By the way, the world's not ending. Sorry to inform all of you fearmongers who think it is, or would like to convince your viewers that it is. It's not. So it's not exploding and exposing a molten core of hot liquid magma. I mean, parts of it are exposing lakes of hot liquid magma. But you're not going to see this happen anytime soon, I don't believe. And were you aware that Governor Tom Wolf of Pennsylvania is a complete fucking COVIDiot? Well, he is. So I just thought I'd like to put that out there, because he keeps instituting new things and saying idiotic things, and he has no ethics. Now, we've got ethics on our channel, which is why we probably only have less than 1,700 subscribers here on YouTube. We've even created videos like Terms Defined Ethics, and we're going to do another one soon, possibly today, with Mr. Philosopher Eugene Bagashov about plutocracy, corporatocracy, and oligarchy. So we've got all kinds of terms defined. There are playlists on the YouTube channel. Please take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't here on YouTube. Again, this one is exclusive, so to all our BitChute viewers and so on, subscribe to YouTube as well. And we've got playlists, so each day, typically, we're putting another video in the Smash Lights section, which is a section of the daily space weather videos. We've got aquarium videos and all kinds of other varied content, so check that out if you haven't. Thanks to our new subscribers over there at BitChute. Let's see who's wearing masks. According to Statista, here are the numbers. And I'm not going to read them because I'm trying to conserve my voice. It's okay, Statista, you can use cookies. There are the breakdowns of how often Americans wear masks in public as a percentage. So it looks like there are more Karens than Chads. More independents than Republicans wear masks. And more Democrats than anybody wear masks. Are you surprised? College grads wear more masks than non-college. Were you aware that grades don't correlate with IQ? All right. Do you think technocrats should take the Hippocratic Oath because they're causing more harm than good when it comes to global pandemics? Companies like Google, Facebook, and Twitter especially. Do you think that they should swear to do more good than harm, or do no harm, or something on this line. Well, I certainly do. But hey, I would prefer if they just didn't mislead their shareholders, as they clearly do, while they try to sway elections by secretly manipulating your data. Do you consider Google to be a soothsayer? Have you been using Google as a verb and sounding like a complete COVIDiot, and not refraining from using Google as a search engine? If professionals whose judgment can directly impact one person are bound to a strict moral code in addition to bearing legal and reputational risk, both civil and criminal, I might add, shouldn't technocrats informing the highest levels of government face considerably more stringent standards of practice? Let's talk about Florida health officials who've stated that a man who died in a motorcycle crash is a coronavirus death. What do you think of that? Have you noticed some cherry-picked statistics, folks? Let's see. Now, this is a YouTube exclusive. Have you noticed some cherry pickers on YouTube? Because there's a bit of cherry-picked data, wouldn't you say? And how the heck did I get off of? Where did it go? Where did it go, folks? We've got a vanishing window. There we go. And I will get to your questions momentarily. So what do you think about this? A guy dies in a motorcycle crash, and it gets added to the state's coronavirus death count. You think that might be a little problem with the statistics, as it's changed one statistic from 99 to 100 or something like that? Can you see how that might affect percentages? Let's talk about Pennsylvania's giant, heaping, plutocrat, corporatist COVIDiot, Tom Wolf. What's Tom Wolf's problem this time? Tom Wolf's problem is that he's willing to, quote, pull the plug and, quote, on school reopening if new surge can't be stopped. What surge is that? The one that the media wishes you to believe is scary or dangerous. By the way, we showed an article on SciTech Daily just the other day suggesting that there's no correlation between number of tests and positive cases. So if that's not ridiculous, I don't know what to tell you. What I think of the stereo ACME is that it's going to erupt in the next 6 hours, and we'll be able to watch it. It probably won't be fully released for 18 hours, maybe. These things often take a solid half a day plus, to fully erupt. It was unexpected, and it's another great example of how we don't need to see sunspots, X-ray flares, or anything. The sun can just fling plasma at any moment. I'm not wearing FL41 lenses, aka Theraspecs, and I have no idea what that is. Anyway, Tony Heller's produced another video here about how no correlation is causation. Here's a small quote.
Other than factual information, then you'll just use the number of positive tests. Another thing which is driving up the case counts is very apparent from this graph.
So there's some data from Tony Heller. Here's a great image of Dr. Fauci. Shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. See, here's one of the problems with Fauci. Fauci's problem is that Fauci is not an epidemiologist. Fauci is an immunologist specializing in vaccines. And what's the problem with the military often? Well, the problem with the military often is that they're a hammer, which causes everything to look like a nail. Let's play another clip here from Tony Heller. Let's get to the part where he talks about Sweden. Yes, Sweden.
Sweden took an actual science-based approach. The theory behind their plan was to isolate the elderly and other people at risk and get the younger, low-risk population to herd immunity.
Did you hear that? Herd immunity? Have you heard about the herd? The herd. The herd is the word. So, hey, check it out. I suggest that you surround yourself with
excellence
and avoid surrounding yourself with incompetence. After all, elections have consequences, because when you elect a complete COVIDiot like this guy, he will appoint a complete COVIDiot like this doctor, former NCAA linebacker, Dr. Rachel Levine, and you'll end up with a covidiotic state. Your state will be in a covidiotic state. Hi, Kimberly. By the way, if you ever need to reach me for a news tip, or if you want to send me a text message, just send a text to the smash VoIP line. Country code 1, area code 610-936-9799. And here ends another episode of Smash Lights, where we talk about whatever we want and debunk covidiocy and even cosmology. So perhaps we'll have to do a cosmology segment later. And we've got to do a terms-defined cosmology as well. Let's get back to some data. GOES magnetometer is looking like it's in a pretty normal range now, as we are back in the South Pole current sheet. Again, we showed this earlier. Here's another view. And you can see the South Pole polarity shown here in red, North Pole solar polar polarity shown in green. A little bit of activity rising, and again, a coronal mass ejection building right now. And we're seeing higher levels of electron flux here, looking more in a normal range. Some anomalies on the total electron content forecast. This is the entire air column. So we will see some significant GPS anomalies here around the equator around noon. And I did see some anomalies here over the South Pacific here off of Baja California, as well as Mexico at nighttime. Otherwise, nothing too abnormal. And in fact, those anomalies around the Caribbean and Mexico, etc., are fairly normal right now anyway. Here's the 3-day electron flux graph. Here's me not vanishing. Next, we'll look at just the ionosphere. And the ionosphere is pretty active right now. It's, yeah, it's quite active. There's a lot of, there's a bit of a wobble going on. And again, this video is later than we usually create a daily space weather video, so we're looking at a different part of the Earth. The South Atlantic anomaly does play more into this at this time of day than it does when we usually make the video, so keep that in mind when viewing the ionosphere map. Here is the current image, and we're streaming live here at 11:45, well, near 11:45. What is the time? So that's about a 5-minute-old map there. And it's looking a little more normal in that moment, but again, it is doing a bit of a charge-discharge dance. Now, we did see a large earthquake here, originally reported as a 6.5, downgraded to a 6.0 near the Tongan Islands. It's not a deep quake, so let's hope that's what the deep quakes in that region were leading up to. Let's look at the last 24 hours here at the USGS site. There's a deep quake at the Kermadec Islands. That one north of New Zealand in a significant earthquake rift zone. And for you new viewers out there, there is this rift that is north of New Zealand, in which we see lots of deep quakes, so this whole rift area. And that is indeed the deep earthquake capital of the world, the area around Fiji and Tonga, Samoa, etc. Let's get back to the list here and keep things moving. We don't want the video to be too long. Here's an extreme deep quake at Fiji. It's a 4.5 magnitude. It's at 607 kilometers depth. And if that was at the surface, that would be like a magnitude 6.5. It would be over a magnitude 6 at the surface, which may become relevant to you in about 2 minutes. Here's a deep quake at Argentina, and we see lots of deep quakes under the western portion of South America on a monthly and yearly basis. Here's a 4.1 at Russia. It's southwest of the Kamchatka Peninsula at nearly 500 kilometers depth. A deep quake at Vanuatu. So a significant series of deep quakes here. Tell your friends, tell your foes to be on earthquake watch, because we've got another coronal mass ejection striking and new information about protons and their relationship between proton induction and earthquakes. An interesting feature that geologists will be scratching their heads having a little bit of trouble explaining. And I won't do it today because it's the daily space weather video, and that's for a cosmology segment at a later time. Anyway, there's another deep quake at the Philippines. It's a 4.4 at exactly 100 kilometers. And we see more new volcanoes on the Earth, on the volcano list here at volcanodiscovery.com. We've got Mount Abico, flight level 12,000 there. And here's one that was not on the list yesterday, if I remember correctly, Mount Yasur exploding, flight level 5,000 there. Fuego also exploding, flight level 15,000. Sangay exploding, flight level 20,000. Revenador exploding, flight level 15,000. Sabancaya exploding, flight level 21,000. Please do not attempt to fly your ultralight aircraft or helicopter built with a homemade kit over Sabancaya's caldera, as it could be unhealthful. Next, looking at the solar system. Here's where things are now. Let's advance it a week. There's where things will be in 1 week. Don't be one geek. Head to theplanetstoday.com. Especially if people that you know are confused. By the way, if you put the geocentric view up, it'll tell you what planets are in what constellation. By the way, I'm in Aries, and my planet Mars is right in the middle of Aries right now. Cheers. Here's what's going on above my head. And in-the-sky.org will show you stars in the daytime or the nighttime. And there's a pileup going on up there, whether you can see it or not. As Mercury trails the Sun, you've also got Saturn, and Jupiter, and Mars, and the Moon, all up there all at once. By the way, we've got some heat advisories, to say the least, over a large eastern portion of the country. This is weather.gov, by the way. Lightning strikes. We've got some more violent weather around the Great Lakes region. Not welcome for all that rain to be falling in those areas, as the levels are high, I'm told, already. And we're creating massive pressure. By the way, the reason the Great Lakes Triangle is so deadly is because of these narrow inlets. When you get storms propagating, you get waves that get bigger and bigger and bigger as they go into all these narrow inlets. The same way tsunamis propagate into fjords. It's a bad time. Lots of lightning there on the Upper Peninsula. Hey, Traverse City, go outside and look to your east and southeast. You may see sprites, although it is daytime. It's quite a light show going on over Lake Huron, for instance. Next, looking at pressure maps here on windy.com. We'll let this advance into tomorrow via the GFS forecast. I like the pressure isobars. What say you? Here's where we expect things to be according to the GFS forecast at 12 noon tomorrow. And it looks like the Anderson-Cooper cyclone, the Anderson-Cooper anticyclone, is holding steady off the coast of Northern California. Hey, windy. There we go. Next, looking at the U.S. Doppler radar map to show heavy storms over Lake Michigan, the kind that produce damaging wind and hail. As there's some cold air coming down here from Canada, I mean, it's totally evident just on the Doppler radar map today. We've been seeing problems with the NASA GOES. First, we'll look at nullschool.net. Here are the jet streams of the eastern world. Here are the jet streams of the western world. Oddball jet stream flows, to say the least. And the Michael Mann anticyclone is starting to break up, like Michael Mann's credibility. Here are satellite images showing water vapor for Europe and Africa. Water vapor maps for the Far East and Oceania are next. There are those. And next we've got sites that can't be reached. Normally we would show you the water vapor map on the NASA GOES data imagery, but today it's not working out. The dangers of doing live streams. So we're unable to access these. You're going to have to deal with it. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to bring up the U.S. water vapor map. So just give me one moment. And we'll bring up the weather.us version of it. And there's the U.S. water vapor map. And can I zoom? There we go. That's acceptable. And that's what happens, folks. Peyton Manning calls audibles. So should you. And just give that a minute to load and it will animate. And that should give you some idea of the way those are going to propagate. And they're going to move east-southeast, it looks like, from this map. We also see some rapid evaporation happening near Peoria. Shout out to our Midwestern viewers. And yeah, the NASA Go. Normally we look up the interactive weather satellite imagery from NASA GOES. And that is not working out today. I'll tell you where this stream goes. It goes to the end. Thanks, Smash Team. Thanks for flying American Smashways. Please don't forget to keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times, as we've got bonus features, such as the solar intensity gram showing us a 0 sunspots, I believe. I don't see any dark ombre associated with those active regions. Here's the colorized magnetogram, a little activity rising up, not there, up here, which, by the way, is more cycle 25 behavior. We're going to look at one more 2-day video of the local yellow dwarf. Today's will be in 131 angstroms. Anyway, thanks for tuning in to the Daily Space Weather. There will be no Smash Lights section today. If you want to show your friends that section, just include a link with a timestamp. Maybe they'll become interested in stuff besides whatever Smash Lights was about today, such as movie recommendations and covidiocy. In any case, thanks for tuning in. Stare at the sun, don't drink, and if you do, don't drive, no matter how much the government tries to compel you to just stay home and get drunk like a complete covidiot. And may that solar wind be at your back, and that atherosclerosis absent from your arteries, and that covidiocy absent from wherever you are.